Welcome back to CurioFlow, where we, like dive deep into all this cool new tech
hmm
and, try to figure out what the future is going to look like. And honestly, the next decade, it's going to be wild. We're like right on the edge of some seriously mind-blowing stuff, things that seem like they're straight out of science fiction right now,
Yeah.
but pretty soon they're going to be just, part of everyday life.
It's true. The speed of all this new tech, it's insane.
Yeah.
And it's all driven by that human need to explore, to discover, to push the limits.
And that's exactly what we're all about here at CurioFlow, embracing that curiosity and trying to wrap our heads around what's coming next. We've got a ton of reports and predictions from the top experts in all these fields, AI, biotech, sustainability. And let me tell you, some of this stuff is wild.
It's going to be fascinating, to see how it all plays out, the impact it's going to have on our lives. And what's really interesting is that it's not just, isolated advancements. It's all these different fields are kind of converging. Breakthroughs in one area are influencing and speeding up progress in others.
All right, let's break down some of these mind-blowing advancements. First up, the AI revolution. I mean, we're already seeing AI everywhere, our phones, our cars, even our homes. But in 10 years, experts are saying it's going to be everywhere. I'm talking about a world where, we can just talk to our devices,
Yeah.
have actual conversations, and machines can do all this complex stuff that right now only humans can do.
One area where AI is really going to change things is natural language processing. Imagine being able to interact with your computer or your phone, just like you would with another person, using natural language, no more typing commands or messing around with menus. You could just tell your device what to do and it would get it.
That's incredible. So instead of saying hey, Siri, set an alarm for 7 a.m., you could just say, wake me up when the sun rises.
Exactly. And it's way more than just, setting alarms. AI-powered language models are getting so sophisticated they can understand context, nuance, even emotion. They could be used to provide personalized education, offer mental health support, or even write creative stuff like stories and poems.
Whoa, AI writing poetry, that's kind of freaky. Makes you wonder, will we even need human writers in the future?
That's the question a lot of people are asking. And it's not just writers who might be impacted. AI can potentially automate tons of tasks, driving trucks, diagnosing diseases, analyzing financial data, you name it.
So is my job safe? Seriously, what happens when machines can do everything humans can do, but faster and better?
It's a valid concern, definitely something we need to be thinking about as a society. Some experts think AI will create new jobs, new opportunities, while others are predicting mass unemployment and social unrest. Honestly, it'll probably be a bit of both.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads, and the choices we make today are going to determine what kind of future we end up with. Do we embrace AI as a tool to make our lives better, or do we fear it as a threat to our existence?
It's a tough question, no easy answers. But one thing's for sure, AI is here to stay. And it's going to have a huge impact on our lives, whether we like it or not. Kind of like that saying. The only thing that's constant is change. And with technology, that change is happening crazy fast. Speaking of change, let's switch gears a bit and talk about something else where, the real world and the digital world are blurring together. The metaverse.
Ah, the metaverse. It's the big buzzword these days. But to be honest, I'm still not quite sure what it actually is. Is it just a fancy new name for virtual reality? Or is it something more than that?
Oh, it's definitely more than just VR. The metaverse is this idea of a persistent, shared 3D virtual world. And we can access it, interact with it using all sorts of devices, VR headsets, smartphones, you name it. And it's not just about games or entertainment either. The metaverse could totally revolutionize the way we work, learn, socialize, even shop.
Okay, now that's starting to sound interesting. So instead of sitting through a boring Zoom meeting, I could just put on my VR headset and meet with my colleagues in a virtual office. Or go to a virtual concert with friends from all over the world.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just copying real world experiences. The metaverse lets us create totally new experiences, stuff that would be impossible in the physical world. Imagine going to a virtual conference where you can instantly teleport from one session to another, or exploring a virtual museum where you can interact with historical artifacts in 3D.
That's pretty wild. But doesn't all this virtual stuff make you wonder, are we going to end up spending even more time online, completely detached from the real world? Is this a technological utopia or just a recipe for social isolation?
It's a good point. And it's definitely something we need to be aware of as we, develop and embrace these technologies. I think the key is balance. To use the metaverse as a way to enhance our lives, not to replace real-world interactions.
Well said. And speaking of enhancing our lives, let's move on to a field that's going to revolutionize healthcare.
Hmm.
Biotechnology. This is an area where we're seeing some truly groundbreaking advancements, stuff that could potentially cure diseases, help us live longer, even enhance our capabilities.
One of the most exciting things happening in biotech is gene editing, specifically the CRISPR-Cas9 technique. This technology lets scientists target and modify genes with incredible precision, which has huge implications for treating genetic diseases.
CRISPR-Cas9, yeah, that rings a bell. I remember reading about it a few years ago. It was a big deal, a major breakthrough, but it also caused a lot of ethical debate. Can you give us a quick rundown on what it is and why it's so important?
Sure. Think of it like this. You've got a typo in a document. With CRISPR-Cas9, it's like having a molecular find and replace tool. It can find a specific DNA sequence, the typo, and either fix it or replace it with a different sequence.
So instead of just treating the symptoms of a genetic disease, we could actually fix the underlying genetic problem. That's amazing.
Exactly. And it's not just about treating diseases that already exist. Gene editing could potentially prevent diseases from developing in the first place. Imagine a world without cystic fibrosis or Huntington's disease.
A world without those diseases. Is that even possible? What about the chances of this technology being used for, less noble purposes, like creating designer babies with specific traits?
That's a crucial point. The ethical implications of gene editing are huge, and it's something we need to think about very carefully as a society. There's a fine line between using this technology for good, like treating diseases, and using it to enhance human capabilities.
It's like we're entering uncharted territory. We need to be careful. What are some other promising areas in biotech that you're excited about?
Another area that's getting a lot of attention is personalized medicine. It's the idea of tailoring medical treatments to an individual's unique genetic makeup.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach to medicine, we could have treatments that are designed specifically for our individual needs.
Exactly. By analyzing someone's DNA, doctors can identify genetic variations that might affect how they respond to certain medications or their risk of developing certain diseases. This allows for more targeted and effective treatments with fewer side effects.
That sounds like the future of healthcare. But wouldn't that lead to huge inequality? What about the people who can't afford personalized treatments? And what about data privacy? Who has access to all that sensitive genetic information?
You're bringing up some important points. Access, affordability, and data privacy are all crucial things to consider when it comes to personalized medicine. These are issues we need to address as a society to make sure that these advancements benefit everyone, not just a select few.
It's definitely a lot to think about, but it's clear that biotech is moving fast, and it's going to have a major impact on our lives in the years to come. And speaking of impacts, we can't ignore the big one, climate change. It's arguably the biggest challenge we're facing as a species, and it's one that's going to require some seriously innovative solutions.
Absolutely. Climate change is a global crisis that demands urgent action. And while it can feel overwhelming, there's also this growing sense of hope and determination to address this challenge. We're seeing amazing advancements in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and carbon capture technologies.
Okay, let's dive into some of those climate solutions. First up, renewable energy. Solar, wind, geothermal, these technologies have been around for a while, but they've really taken off in recent years. What's driving that growth?
There are a few things happening. The cost of renewable energy tech has dropped dramatically, so they're now more competitive with fossil fuels. Governments around the world are creating policies to encourage people to switch to renewables, and people are becoming more aware of the benefits of clean energy for the environment and for their wallets.
So it's like a perfect storm of tech advancements, policy changes, and consumer demand, all pushing us towards renewable energy.
Exactly. And it's not just about generating clean energy either. We also need to figure out how to store that energy so we can use it when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing.
Makes sense. What are some of the most promising energy storage technologies out there?
We're seeing a lot of innovation in battery technology, especially lithium-ion batteries, which are used in everything from smartphones to electric cars. But there are also some new technologies emerging, like flow batteries and solid-state batteries, which could offer even better energy density and longer lifespans.
So the battery revolution is just getting started.
Exactly. And as battery technology keeps improving, it's going to have a huge impact on everything, from transportation to how our energy grids work.
Speaking of transportation, the rise of electric vehicles is another big trend helping us fight climate change. It seems like every car company is now making electric models, and people are really starting to embrace this shift. What's driving that trend?
It's a similar story to renewable energy. Electric vehicles are becoming more affordable, their range is increasing, and the charging infrastructure is expanding. And of course, there's the big environmental benefit of driving a zero-emission vehicle.
But aren't electric vehicles still reliant on electricity that's often generated from fossil fuels? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose?
It's a fair point. Electric vehicles are at their best, environmentally speaking, when they're charged using renewable energy sources. As we transition to a cleaner energy grid, electric vehicles will have an even bigger positive impact.
It's really interesting to see how all these pieces are starting to come together. A fundamental shift in how we generate, store, and use energy.
Exactly. It's a systemic change that's going to require innovation across multiple sectors. And it's not just about technology. It also requires changes in how we behave in policies and in investments.
It's a complex challenge, but it's one we absolutely need to face head on. What are some other areas where technology is playing a role in tackling climate change?
One that often gets overlooked is sustainable agriculture. The way we produce food has a huge impact on the environment. Greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, water pollution, you name it.
So how can technology help us make our food system more sustainable?
We're seeing advancements in what's called precision agriculture, which uses sensors, data analytics, and automation to optimize crop yields and use fewer resources. There's also vertical farming, which lets us grow food in urban environments, reducing transportation costs and environmental impact.
Vertical farming, that sounds futuristic. Are we talking about skyscrapers filled with crops?
Not quite skyscrapers yet, but we are seeing indoor farms popping up in cities all over the world. These farms use controlled environments and high-tech stuff like hydroponics and LED lighting to grow crops year-round using way less water and land.
That's amazing. It's like we're hacking the food system, making it more efficient and sustainable. What other innovations in sustainable agriculture are you excited about?
One area that's gaining a lot of traction is alternative protein sources. As the global population keeps growing, we need to find better ways to produce protein.
So we're talking about plant-based meat alternatives. I've tried a few, and they're getting pretty good. Are there other options besides just trying to imitate meat?
Absolutely. There are companies developing protein from insects, algae, even fungi. These alternative sources require far fewer resources than traditional livestock farming, and they could dramatically reduce the environmental impact of our food system.
Insects and algae as food. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. But I'm open to trying new things. It's clear we need to explore all the options if we want to feed a growing population sustainably.
That's the spirit. It's all about embracing innovation and being open to new ideas.
It's really amazing to see how much innovation is happening, to tackle these global challenges.
Yeah.
But hey, let's not forget about the cool stuff, the advancements that are like pushing the boundaries of what's even possible. We were talking about some mind-blowing stuff earlier. One thing that really stuck with me was this whole elasticalorics thing. Sounds like something out of a comic book, but apparently it's real.
It does sound kind of sci-fi, doesn't it? But elasticalorics is a fascinating field with a ton of potential. Basically, it involves materials that can change temperature when you stretch or compress them. Like, imagine a rubber band that heats up when you pull it and cools down when you let go.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me we could have fridges and ACs that work without any moving parts, or like those nasty refrigerants? Where do I sign up?
That's the idea. Elasticaloric materials could completely change how we think about cooling systems, make them more efficient, quieter, and better for the environment. And it's not just about keeping our houses cool either. This technology could be used in electronics, aerospace, even medicine.
That's incredible. It's crazy how something so simple, like stretching a material, could have such a big impact. Speaking of pushing the limits, what about this microbial carbon capture thing? Can we really use tiny organisms to fight climate change?
It might sound kind of out there, but it's a really hot area of research right now. Certain microorganisms like algae and bacteria, they naturally absorb carbon dioxide from the air. Scientists were trying to figure out how to make that process even more efficient, potentially creating like biofactories that could capture massive amounts of CO2.
So instead of polluting the atmosphere, we can use CO2 as a raw material to create useful stuff. It's like turning pollution into profit.
Exactly. Microbial carbon capture could totally change how we think about carbon emissions. Imagine factories that don't just reduce their CO2 output, but actually capture it and turn it into biofuels, bioplastics, even food.
I mean, that would be game-changing. It seems like we're always finding new ways to use nature to solve our problems.
Yeah.
What other innovations in this area are you excited about?
One really cool area is reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, or RIS. Imagine your walls could act like antennas. boosting your Wi-Fi signal and getting rid of those annoying dead zones.
So no more slow internet or dropped calls. I am so there.
That's the promise of RAS technology. These surfaces can be electronically controlled to reflect and redirect radio waves. It's like creating a smart environment that optimizes wireless signals. This could have a huge impact on everything from telecommunications to healthcare to how we design cities.
That sounds straight out of science fiction. It's mind-blowing to think about all the possibilities with these new technologies. But just like with any powerful tool, we got to be careful about the risks and the ethical side of things, right?
Absolutely. We need to approach all these advancements responsibly to make sure they're being used for good, for the benefit of humanity and the planet. And that's where curiosity comes in.
Curiosity, how does that fit into responsible tech development?
Curiosity makes us ask questions, to look at things from different angles, to think about the unintended consequences of what we're doing. It helps us look at innovation critically, to make sure we're not just creating new tech for the sake of it, but that we're actually making the world a better place.
That's a really powerful thought. Curiosity isn't just about learning new things. It's about using that knowledge to build a better future.
Yeah.
And that's what CurioFlow is all about.
Exactly. We're all on this journey of discovery together, and it's through curiosity, collaboration, and that shared drive to make progress that we can face the challenges and the opportunities that are coming our way.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of CurioFlow. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into all this amazing tech that's on the horizon. And we hope you feel inspired to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.
Remember, the future isn't something that just happens. It's something we create. And the most powerful tool we have to shape that future is our own curiosity.
Until next time, stay curious.